So picking back up in chapter 5, after Moses and Aaron met with the leaders of Israel, they headed to the king of Egypt to tell him those famous words, "Let my people go." I don't know where that came from. I may edit that out. Apologies in advance for the lawnmower sound in the background. My neighbor's getting his lawn cut currently as we speak, of all times. So if you do hear the lawnmower in the background, I do apologize in advance. Good morning, everyone. It's a beautiful day in Craw Park. Thank you guys so much for watching. I sincerely appreciate it. If you haven't already, think about subscribing below. Let's get into the video. So picking back up in chapter 5, after Moses and Aaron met with the leaders of Israel, they headed to the king of Egypt to tell him those famous words, "Let my people go." I don't know where that came from. I may edit that out. So of course the king refuses and makes it harder for the Hebrew people. The same people that begged Moses to save them from the Egyptians and Pharaoh are the same people trying to kill him now. God tells Moses, "I got this," and becomes essentially his ultimate father. No pun intended. Although that may be a double entendre. So while Moses and Aaron were pleading for the people of Israel to be set free, So while Moses and Aaron are pleading their case to the king of Egypt to let the people go, God allows Aaron to perform a few miracles. The first miracle is that Aaron takes the walking stick of Moses and God turns it into a snake. Pharaoh sees this and immediately summons his magicians. Pharaoh sees this and immediately summons his magicians. Clearly I want to hear music right now. Pharaoh sees this and immediately summons his magicians. The magicians come and imitate the miracles. However, Aaron's snake devoured the other snakes. The next day, while pleading their case, Moses and Aaron turn the Nile River into blood. But of course, Pharaoh summons his magicians, and turns the river into blood as well. I'm not even going to edit that out. The interesting part about this whole ordeal is that the entire time, Moses and Aaron are telling the king, "You're gonna die if you keep being stubborn." A week later, Moses and Aaron return to the king of Egypt and send frogs throughout the entire nation. Frogs in people's homes, in their food, in the farmland, everywhere. Now, of course, Pharaoh summons his magicians, and they do the same thing, which I thought was stupid because why would you summon more frogs? Now the king is getting pretty upset because now there's frogs everywhere in his land and his people are upset. So he lies and says, "If you will kill all the frogs, I will let your people go." God allows Moses and Aaron to kill the frogs, but then the king goes back and persists that he will not let anybody go. Because of his stubbornness, next God brought gnats throughout the land of Egypt. The Bible says that every grain of sand, every speck of dust became a gnat. Now I'm not sure where you live watching this, but if you're unfamiliar with gnats are these very small flying insects that will bite you and eat you alive. Now I'm from Southeast Georgia, Thunderbolt to be exact, and I'm very familiar with gnats. We call them sand gnats here. And these little devils are just that, demonic monsters. So I can imagine the people of Egypt and how they felt when every speck of dust became a gnat. Here we see the first time that Pharaoh's magicians, I said it right, could not save the people. Pharaoh relented and said, "Okay, I see what you're doing, I'm not a fan, I can't stand the gnats. Go ahead and do your sacrifices, but do them in Egypt." Of course, Moses declined because that is not the word of the Lord. So at this point, God is fed up and starts to show off his power. It literally looks like Oprah. You get a plague, you get a plague, and you get a plague. So first, God kills every Egyptian livestock in the area. Then he sends swords to everybody. Double entendre again. I'm 2 for 2. Get it? Everybody. Ooh, that boy good. Alright, so anyway, next he sends hailstorms, locusts, darkness. The people of Egypt are like, "Look, Pharaoh, you gotta chill because you are literally ruining Egypt." And all the while the king is trying to make his own rules. But Moses has to decline because that is not 100% of what God wanted him to do. And then God goes for the gusto. Something that my dad used to always say, "I can show you better than I can tell you." So this is when God tells Moses to tell the king of Egypt that if he does not relent and set my people free, he's going to kill the firstborn of everything. When God said firstborn, he meant everything. Firstborn child, firstborn livestock, everything. My pastor mentioned this during Easter, and when he mentioned it, he referenced firstborn ant, firstborn roach, I mean, he went in. God said the only way to be spared from destruction is to create a sacrifice and put the blood on the doorpost. When God sees the blood on the doorpost, he will spare or pass over that family. Thus what we know as Passover. And of course, God, being true to his word, came through and killed the firstborn of everything. There was much weeping in the land. The Egyptians were so distraught that Pharaoh said, just go, get out. The Bible says that the Egyptians were friendly, aka scared of the Hebrews, and so they gave them their fine clothes and jewelry. Quick fact, the Passover celebration is still observed to this day during the Hebrew month of Abib, which runs from mid-March to mid-April. So moving on to Exodus 13, we see that God's people have been set free and they're being led by God, a cloud by day and fire by night. So often we hear that Pharaoh chased the Israelites on his own accord. Actually, if you go back, God caused Pharaoh to be stubborn throughout this entire ordeal. The Bible says that God did all of this not only to reap the praise, but to have the Egyptians know who he was, and also to have his people, the Israelites, understand and trust him and their leader Moses. This cutting of the grass. My neighbors don't even have that much grass. What is taking them so long? So getting back, we see that Pharaoh has finally caught up to the Egyptians. And in typical Egyptian style, they are murmuring, complaining, and probably scared. But this is all part of God's plan. Also, another note here, we often think that this happened in real time. That Pharaoh caught up to the Egyptians crossed the Red Sea, Pharaoh and his people died. However, that is not what actually happened. The Bible says that when the Egyptians approached, God came as darkness to the Egyptians, and so they could not advance forward. That gave Moses enough time to raise his hand over the Red Sea and have a wind blow. The Bible says that the wind blew all night long. I feel it's very interesting that we often leave out those crucial details when reading about this story. And what happens next is nothing short of a miracle. Moses raises his hands, parts the Red Sea. The Hebrew people are allowed to cross on dry land to the other side. The Egyptians try to follow. The Red Sea closes, drowning Pharaoh and his warriors. So in chapter 16, we see the beginning of their journey throughout the desert. But now they're hungry and thirsty. God hears their cries and turns bitter water into drinking water and sends bread from heaven. Now typically, we think that manna was a type of bread like wheat or sourdough, but that's untrue. The people didn't know what to call it, so they called it manna, which in Hebrew means, what is this? The people didn't know what the bread was, so they called it manna, which in Hebrew means, what is this? And that is how God met their needs in the desert. They gave them bread in the morning and meat at night. And just for good measure, he gave them double on the 6th day, so they could observe no work on the 7th day, the Sabbath. And they did this for 40 years. All right, everyone, so that brings us to Exodus chapter 17 and end of this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I sincerely appreciate it. Once again, if you haven't already subscribed, please do so. Share with your family and friends. I'll see you guys next week.